All right, good morning, class. My name is Michael Geraldo Santana, and a little bit about me. I'm a senior here at Frisco High School. I volunteer at Miracle League, FISD carnivals, as well as FISD sports events. I am in NHS, DECA Student Council, and marching band. My first interview was with Keith Ferguson. The funny thing about this guy is that I was actually interviewing 4 people at the same time. I got a lot of information out about it. It was my first interview and it was really informative. My second interview was Jenna Anaya. She's actually self-employed, so petroleum engineering companies would actually call her in order to inspect, make sure everything is correct and in place and it'll meet code. Larry Chaplin is the vice president. This is my 3rd vice president of DeGloria McIntosh. He told me all about running a company in its own firm. He's more of a consulting company, so rather than going out and drilling, he's doing the financial aspects of petroleum engineering. Miguel Coquise also does the financial aspects, and I got to view a lot of the software engineering systems, as well as he had an intern that he was with, and I was able to interview him as well. Last but not least, Pat Handren is my mentor, and he's the West Region Well Integrity Manager at Denbury Resources, and so far I've learned a lot from him, and he was able to give me a lot of information over petroleum engineering so far in just 2 mentor visits, and I can't wait to see what I do with him. Alright, petroleum engineering, the fastest growing career seen to date. It is said that petroleum engineering will grow 26% by 2012 to 2022. This is much faster than the average for all other occupations. You may ask how a career not mentioned 7 years ago could have this kind of boom. Well, it's because the demand in oil is never ending. We use petroleum engineering to power our cars, planes, and other motor devices. We also use petroleum to power heating as well as electricity generation. That's not all. We use petroleum for clothes, refrigerators, toothpaste, tires, CDs, cell phones, and much more. This is where petroleum engineers come in. Petroleum engineers design and develop methods for extracting oil and gas from deposits below the Earth's surface. Petroleum engineers also find new ways to extract oil from older wells. This is easier said than done. It could take decades to get all of the petroleum out of the well. It all depends on how much petroleum the well has, and the more it has, the longer it takes. But this is better for petroleum engineers because they get to stay in one location instead of relocating all around. Because there are so many things petroleum engineers are required to do, they are separated into different categories. The first one is drilling engineers. Drilling engineers are involved in estimating the value of reserves, estimating the cost to access them, acquiring necessary property by lease, conducting geological surveys, developing a wellbore plan, and providing a layout of the type of equipment to reach the depth of a well. These are the type of engineers that are always traveling around the world, mainly right now in the Middle East. We have to do, and we actually have a lot in the USA as well. They could spend several months, if not years, in different areas around the world. So raising a family would be extremely difficult in this type of career, but it's really cool to be able to travel around the world while working. I have a short video that shows what drilling engineers do. This is just a little bit of what a drilling engineer has to do, and there are several types of ways of doing it. Let's see here. No. Zero sound. Oh, I guess there's... Oh. Well, anyways, what the drilling engineers have to do, you see, in order to drill, they pump mud down in. It's like to to power, it's like PSI, I believe it's pressure. They pump mud down to move the drill really quickly to be able to meet a certain spot. And what they do is that they use explosions to pop several wells to be able to get the oil in to the well, and then the industrial engineers actually take it out. But that's just what this video shows. But it has no sound, so I'll just go on without it. But you must be extremely careful with this type of machinery. It is extremely powerful. One mishap and the entire oil rig could explode. Several oil rigs have actually burned down due to the lack of observation, like the one engulfed in flames and not too long ago. Here's a little example of what happens when you don't look over things. Look. Check the one. Okay. That's right. Okay, yeah, this one works.
Well, I filled out my application and I took it down to personnel. I said, I've heard you use a man in the oil field.
It's right
They
there.
said, have you ever worked on well? I said, no, I don't know nothing about it, but I'm pretty sure I can learn. They said,
So what they do is that they actually put the encasing while it's still drilling. I don't know why they did it, but it caused just an explosion. I don't believe anyone died in this, but it wasn't that big of an explosion. But you just really have to be careful with this type of powerful equipment. Another type of petroleum engineer is the reservoir engineer. Reservoirs engineers estimate the size of an oil and gas deposit and find the most efficient way of producing it. They're the engineers that do all the financial procedures. They tend to stay close at home and work in offices, and they do not begin with the same salary as a drilling engineer, but they have more room to grow. They could become owners of companies and have their own employees as well. And last but not least, we have the production engineers. These engineers select the equipment to get the well to produce oil after it's been drilled. Once the drilling engineers are done, the production engineers come in and they try to figure out how to get all the oil out of there the most efficient way. And they use several methods depending on the location of the oil and gas. Even though this sounds like a prosperous career, you don't know when the economy is going to change. When the economy goes bad, petroleum engineers usually, when the oil prices go down, petroleum engineers get hurt really bad, and it greatly affects the income because petroleum engineers usually make $100,000 or more, and because they're laying off so much jobs, they can't put that money back into the economy, which in turn hurts the economy. But in the 1980, there was a drop that was a whole lot worse than what it is today. But today, it's recorded the longest drop in oil in history. It's not the worst, but it's just the longest. It's been about 200 days so far. And there are about 200 to 300 people on each oil rig. And there's an estimated drop of 400,000 jobs throughout this year so far, and I believe that that's going to, if it hasn't already, hurt the economy, but I know we'll be able to move up from that. And because the drop of engineers, workers that are not ready to become managers are forced into the manager position or they'll lose their job, and this creates bad like when people come in, they don't know how to lead, they just know how to work the well. Now that we talked about the team that takes the petroleum out, let's talk about the advancements we have made. You've probably seen a movie or a picture where oil is spewing out of a spindle top. This was because people didn't know how to actually conserve all the oil. They only got fractions of it. Thousands, if not millions, of gallons of oil has been lost this way. Now everything is conserved and well planned. If they believe they will hit the jackpot, there will be more storage units in place. and they send it off to the plant where chemical engineers process it into the oil we use for our cars. For my original work, I just started out in petroleum engineering, and I wanted to know which types of rocks like petroleum engineers look for, and out of these rocks, which ones are permeable, which ones best hold oil, and which ones are good cap rocks. Cap rocks are rocks that they aren't as permeable, but they're able to hold the other permeable rocks, so it's all into place. And the questions, so I used metamorphic, igneous, and sedimentary rock. Igneous rocks are rocks that have been solidified by lava or magma, and what I did is I placed each of these into mineral oil because this is about the same density as petroleum, and I placed each one in for an hour and I recorded the amount left in it. So for all these igneous rocks, I'm going to just go over each one. The first one is obsidian, and it's a natural glass. The second one is granite. It's medium to coarse grained. Third one is basalt. Excuse me on these pronunciations. It's dark and dense. Pumice is air rock foaming. It floats on water, which is very intriguing. And rhyolite, it's a fine texture. After I placed all of these in the mineral oil and took them out, it was at the same measurement. It did not change at all. So based on that, I realized that igneous rocks are not permeable. Metamorphic rocks are rocks that have undergone transformation by heat, pressure, or other natural agencies. The first one is slate, which is dense and it breaks. It's really flat. The second one is marble. It's fine, medium grain. Third one is quartz. Quartz, yeah. It's medium grain. Gneiss is uneven, medium coarse grain, and schist is medium coarse grain. So from the metamorphic and igneous rocks, I placed them both in for an hour and I got nothing out of it, which kind of scared me because I thought that would be the same thing that would happen to the sedimentary rocks and I would have wasted time, but it actually worked out. And sedimentary rocks are rocks that have been formed in sediment deposit by water or air. So I'm going to go over each one. The first one's shale, and shale is compressed by clay. It's dense and it has a fine grain. The second one is calcareous tufa, which is light, porous, and reacts with acid. Third one is sandstone, which is sedimentary, compressed by sand, and conglomerate, which is compressed gravel, and limestone, which is dense and fine grained as well. Doing this experiment, I placed each one for an hour and I recorded what would happen. Here's each one inside the mineral oil. I left it in there for an hour and I recorded the results after. For shale, it was, for my hypothesis, I believe that sandstone would be the most permeable and the conglomerate would be the best cap rock to keep any oil from seeping through. But going on, for the shale, it was a total of 7/8 of the cup left. I think it's just light in here so you can't really see that line, but it's 7/8 of the cup left. Second one is calcareous tufa, and that was 3/4 of the cup left. 7/8 for the sandstone, another 7/8 for the conglomerate, and the limestone actually got 3/4 as well of the cup down. And based on this experiment, sedimentary rocks are the only ones that are permeable. Limestone is actually the most permeable, and the best cap rock is shale. All the igneous rocks are impermeable because the igneous rocks minerals are too compact because they go through lava. This means they're very bad rocks to drill through, and metamorphic rocks do not have any pores because they use heat and pressure to be able to made. Therefore, the only rocks that are permeable are sedimentary rocks, and I learned that sedimentary rocks are the ones that petroleum engineers look for, and the best like what they really look for are cap rocks on the top and below for the most permeable rocks, because when they're able to drill, the oil doesn't go all around the earth. It's stuck in one spot, and they're able to take it all out. There are so many things petroleum engineers have to do in order to provide power to the United States of America. One day I hope to travel the world while working hard and gaining new knowledge along the way. I don't know how everything will work out, but as George Patton has said, if I tell people where to go, but not how to get there, you'll be amazed by the results. Thank you.